The Do This podcast is part of the Win, Make, Give podcast network. Join hosts Bob Stewart and Chad Hyams as they welcome guest Nina Heller. Nina is a seasoned coach in mental health and wellness with over 32 years of experience, specializing in the real estate industry. This episode dives into stress management strategies, the importance of setting priorities, and nurturing personal and professional relationships. Nina shares tips on how to reduce stress and enhance productivity for real estate professionals. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Do This podcast, presented by Brivity.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. I'm not sure where
over here. Afternoon,
okay.
Bob.
Okay, yeah, Chad, we always have both coasts covered. So good afternoon, Chad Hyams. Ooh, we have a special guest today. A special guest. This is Nina Rowan Heller. And Nina, do me a favor. Before we jump in here and we start kind of tapping into a little bit of your expertise, can you introduce yourself to everybody listening or maybe watching this on a recording later?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here because your group is very close to my heart because my husband's involved with you all now. But I've been, my background's in mental health and wellness, and I left the therapeutic world and began coaching people 32 years ago. And my first intro into that was really connecting with big real estate companies. So I didn't plan on coaching a ton of real estate agents and people in the real estate world, but that's how it developed. And so about 30 to 50% of my clients tend to be in the real estate world. I never became an agent, but I know exactly how to be with one. The best thing that came out of that is I met my husband when I was speaking at an event and he was on a panel. So I've been coaching people to help them with lifestyle management, health and wellness, business growth, and how those things all work together. And as of late, the reason we keep doing these chats now, they're more than ever, is because people are feeling more pressure than I've probably seen them go through even since 2008, when we were dealing with all kinds of crazy in the real estate world. It's like exponentially more difficult now. And so there are some things I can help people do. And so I'm excited to be here to chat with people and see what we can do to support everybody.
Bob, do you see that if you have vision and you have plan, you can start succeeding in your industry at age 14? Because if she's been in it that long, there's no way she's that old. She is healthy and recovered and knows what she's doing, folks. Look at her.
I want to do that, for Molly Shanahan. I'm 50, but I'm 60. So I'm 60, and I'm very proud to be 60 because all that knowledge that you get to go on the ride, and then the other stuff you can do to help keep yourself young and fit. So,
Couple things that as I was listening to you introduce yourself, you may have never been an agent, but you've had a front row seat to one of the top 8 real estate agents like in the country.
Yes.
Your husband Chris was an absolute
machine,
real estate assassin when he was doing it at the highest levels. So here's how I want to maybe start this conversation, because I literally 10 minutes before I jumped in here, and Nina, it was 1 minute before I saw you, I got off the phone with a guy, and his intro line to me when we sat down was, I'm really stressed out. He's like, I got a lot going on. My wife is 8 months pregnant. Like, I'm taking on the bulk of our business responsibilities while she, gets herself to the finish line. And it's, she's going to spend some time with the baby, obviously. And he's like, I'm just stressed out. And you mentioned it, like these last 3 years have been some of the hardest in real estate, Nina. There's not as many even in 2008, when there was a lot of mental stress because the clients you were dealing with were under an immense amount of pressure, there was still transactions happening.
Right. And people were able to navigate and shift and change, and they were able to adapt and adjust. And so those that didn't left, but this is completely different territory. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess, let's start with maybe speaking to the gentleman that I was on the phone with a half hour ago. What would you tell him about how to manage his stress over the next, let's call it, year? I don't know how long he's going to be stressed out, right? But
18. because I don't know how many kids he has, but at least 18's coming up. So one of the things to understand is what you focus on really matters. And if you're doing a job and you list what it is that you do in this job, and you go through and you say, these are the things that I do in my career, my job, my business. Go through that list and immediately look and say, what are my priorities in that list? And the reason you want to do that is if you have a list and you can't even figure out the priorities, you may be in the wrong job. So you need to understand that sometimes people are in the wrong job. I'm not saying your person who has a wife that's 8 months pregnant needs to go bail on his job, but I do think, because the word stress, you need to understand we are in our careers bridges that have been built to handle the pressure that exists in our career. So we are built in order to handle the pressure, just like any engineering pressure. If you're not handling the pressure, it's either that we haven't built the bridge well for our career, or we're in the wrong place. We shouldn't be here. Okay, so that's the first thing to really understand, because I think sometimes if people have been waking up for a really long time saying, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm like, you may not be in the right job. And that's okay. You need to know that. The second thing about that is, all right, so now what do I need to do to build the bridge that I am that can handle the pressure? One is stop using the word stress. Okay, it is what it is. That's all it is. Every CEO in a Fortune 5 company that I've ever worked with will say, I don't even call it stress, because we immediately remove the name, because the name is our bonding validation with others. What I mean by that is, if I run into you, Bob, and you go, how are you doing? And you're like, oh my God, I'm stressed. And then the other person says, oh, me too. And now we're all collectively talking about all the reasons why we are stressed. And for real estate agents, if it's not during this time, the number one thing they like to share that's the stress connection is the market. Oh my God, the market, the market, the market, the market. Everybody does that. And then everybody talks about the wrong thing. You're focusing on exactly the wrong thing. So what you want to do is you want to understand, validate that this time is tough. Absolutely. And then the quicker we can actually go, what is it that I need to do? What are the number one priorities that I need to focus on? The other ones I do not need to add to a list so that I can validate how stressed I am. You go, these are the 3 I focus on today. And something may pop up and all of a sudden change. And you go, that one goes away. I focus on these 3. And you do that. What ends up happening with the other parts of the list? You learn how to leverage some of them you never needed to be involved in, and somebody else has handled them and taken care of them. And then the last part is that you're like, some of those, the answers happen because you solved the 3 priorities. So if you can it's like stepping back and organizing what's coming at you rather than listing all the things that are the challenges, so that basically we do that to validate, I'm struggling. So if you can all validate your own struggling and saying, this is a tough time. And that's why we start out talking like that. We're not saying everything's great, everything's wonderful, everyone's succeeding except you. This is guaranteed that you're going to make money here. That's all bull. And what you need to focus on is to say, this is tough. And what are my actionable items, the things I need to do? So that priority thing is really, really, really important.
Bob, just to give you a breath in there as you go and get a drink, if we think back to our conversation with Chris, right? And Bob, I'll get this wrong. You'll probably be able to correct me on it. Chris kept saying my wants don't matter, right? It was something along those lines. If we asked Chris right now, hey, real estate agent, I don't care if you're a mega agent, you're a new agent, however you're here listening to this, your number one job, it's lead generate. Your number 2 job is your lead follow-up, because if you generated the leads, follow up. You shouldn't have any question as to what job 1 and job 2 are. Now, if job 3 might change some days, maybe it's today I'm on those appointments. That's the priority. Maybe today it's I'm doing that appraisal, that inspection stuff that's going on behind the scenes. That's a priority. Folks, 1 and 2 should be answered for you. Otherwise, you're justifying anything else because you want to put it ahead of those things.
And what's great about that, Chad, is then it makes it easy for you. Like that's your focus. That is your focus. That's 1 and 2. You cannot accomplish things by getting things added to you that just create chaos. One of the things we talk about is there's chaos and predictability. Okay. And there's predictability and chaos. You know that you need to focus on your lead gen. And like you said, the second part, it's really sad to see people go out and lead generate and then never follow up. And you're like, oh my gosh, you just created these connections and then let them die on the vine. And so it's, if you just do that, I know, and just to mention my husband, he is an enigma. Okay. Very few people are going to function at the level that he does. He's fascinating and interesting, and he's got all kinds of odd stuff that he does. But for 27 years, when he was selling real estate, he never missed a day of lead gen and follow up. Never. And so his goal when he was doing that was that to keep hitting his numbers with fewer days that he was working. So if he was in the office, if it was a work day or vacation, that's it. There wasn't any in between where I'm sort of half-assing at showing up at work. It's like I am either doing this or not doing this. And so part of this too, Chad, for everybody that's listening, as real estate agents, you all have your own pressure, okay, the pressure that is in your business. Then you have your personal pressure, your relationships, your family, 8 months pregnant wife, your kids, everything else. And then you have your client pressure. And real estate agents are not trained in mental health. And as a person who came from mental health, I'm like, you all need to be, because you also have this whole nother thing that you're managing. And I think sometimes people, when they feel stress, what they're actually identifying is they're feeling other people's stress along with theirs. So a really good question to ask, aside from setting your priorities, lead gen and follow up, and then maybe you have your third that you figure out, you need to go, is this mine or someone else's? Because if it's yours, then handle it. If it's someone else's, there may be something that you do. It may be setting expectations. It may be calming them down, giving them some direction, but it's not yours to own. So if I'm a lifeguard and someone is struggling in the pool, as a coach, I know I don't dive in there and let them dunk me and I drown with them and say, oh my gosh, I so empathize with you. This is really hard. And let's keep having a conversation about drowning. I have a life preserver. I throw it to them and I pull them out. That's your job as a real estate agent. You don't need to get down in there with them. You say, I hear you, I understand. And so this transaction, we are doing all these things. So this is not a stress for you. And what you can help your clients and you understand, anybody that's dealing with constant chaos, litigation. I used to do divorce custody cases and I had to assess families. Litigation, really intense work, really difficult clients. You need to set a perfect amount of time for you to think about it during the day. And then the rest of the time is action. So put it in your calendar that you do whatever. And typically that's like a walk at the end of the day where you release it all and you think about it and you make some notes and that's it. The rest of the time, be in action about everything else.
Yeah, I used to stop at a parking lot and listen to music before I went home. Just so there was that perfect stop. One song, it didn't matter what song, there was just one song, and there was just that clear segue of work is left behind now, I can go home to my family.
And that is actually a cognitive behavioral process that you teach yourself for everybody that's a high level performance, whether it's CEO, Olympic athlete, anything like that I work with. We have to have an end of the day. And so a lot of times it's great to do breathing, movement, releasing and chatting, talking to yourself, talking to somebody that's in the exact same place, but don't go download to the family when you get home. And here's the other thing. If you guys have people at home and the first thing they ask you is, how was your day? If that doesn't make you feel good, you need to tell everyone in your family, that's not the question I need you to ask. Because you don't want to regurgitate the whole day. You want to say, like, I'm so glad you're home. And don't throw like, let me tell you what the last 3 kids have done today that you need. Give everybody space to arrive. And it's about 5 minutes, believe it or not, that you need to just enter back into your home. And then you say, is there something I can do to support you? If people came home like that, then they're like, oh, I feel so much better. And they leave work there. And then I'm just going to add one more thing. Because I am old enough to have worked through cell phones. Okay. There are times where cell phones only were used when it was an emergency. That was the only time. And 30
Because they
emails a
cost
day.
85 cents or $85 a minute.
It was really expensive, and 30 emails in a day was a big day. Okay. I lived those moments, and some of the older people on this call may understand, they remember this. Take your business calls out in just a certain place at home. In your car, typically that's your office on wheels. But find a place at home that you take them where you excuse yourself from everything else and go take that call, and never have it be in your bedroom. One thing, the boundary to talk about, nothing related to this is at our house. No business conversations on the phone, no chat about kids, no discussion about finances. We don't have any of those heavy discussions in our room. And Chris will tell you, I have ushered him out because he's accidentally walked in on the phone and gotten, I'm like, get out of there. Because that's your sacred space, and that'll help you manage that feeling of stress. If you can contain all your calls to, I take my phone calls. I got a client who takes them in the garage. And he said, to me, it makes it easier. All my office stuff stays by the car and in the garage. I go, that's great. It also makes him not stay there forever. So that's just helpful
Nina,
support.
You said something that validated something I heard recently, and I changed the way I approached my kids when I pick them up at school. So I pick my boys up every day, and you said, like, when somebody walks in the house, it's not how was work right away. And so I used to every day get in the car, how was school? And they just give you, it's fine, or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know, I read it or I heard it somewhere. Like, that's not the way you approach those kids. What's a better way to approach my kids, like when I'm picking them up from school?
So one of the things that you can do is you can immediately share something really fun. So you're like, I just listened to this music. I know you guys like it. Do you want to hear that? It shifts them to adding to your fun. Okay. So it's not the fun that you think, as parents, we all say stuff and our kids just roll their eyes and go, that is not even fun. So it has to be connected to something they do. And what we found is music. Chris can connect all our kids based on music. He likes a lot of different music and listens to a lot of different things. And he'll say, oh, I just heard this new song. And then they're talking about that. Then they're actually in conversation with you. When you say, how was your day? You're not in conversation. You're in an interview, and whether or not someone wants to continue the interview or is ready to talk. And what ends up happening is then you can kind of just be having a fun conversation about a topic. I was thinking maybe this weekend we go fishing. What do you guys think about that? And then they're like, well, and they may be saying whatever. And it's like, I'm hungry. You guys hungry? Because the other thing is kids don't really have the energy sometimes to talk to you at the end of the day because they've been exhausted. So even just getting some kind of ritual where maybe you go by, in California, we used to go by a fruit stand. And you're like, that just became sort of the download thing. Go by a fruit stand, grab something. I mean, we have food at home, but it's like, oh, it's kind of a ritual. And then it eases them into the conversation. And then the hint for everyone, males will be in conversation if you have an activity. Okay. The sweeping generalization about genders, but it works. So having an activity to do is the time for a conversation. When people are stuck sitting in a car or something, they have to really create the conversation if they want to talk. So for kids, throwing a ball, go for a walk the dog, draw, puzzle, do stuff, that activity will help kids in general. But if you have a man in your life, I can tell you, if people raise their hands, I can't see all of you, but if I said for any man that said, or anyone in particular that said, someone, I need to talk with you, we need to talk, the first thing in people's brain goes, what do I have to say to not talk about whatever is coming next? And so that is not the way to get into a conversation. So start out with something that's an invitation to something fun and interesting and engaging rather than a question.
I'm wondering now, Nina, I think my wife maybe has heard you talk and is using ninja moves on me, because recently she at night in the evenings she's been asking me if I want to play on our little game table, and then like she plays earlier with the kids and then they go to bed. She's like, "You want to play Wheel of Fortune on the game table or whatever?" And and then we have healthy conversations around that.
Right. Right.
Bob, it's because when you announced your engagement, we sent your wife to Nina. We said, "Here, we want this one to work. Go meet Nina. She's going to help." So
one of my most fun things is to have that conversation. There are so many things where people have great intentions about relationships, but they're doing all the wrong things. And so, our kids are 26 to 35, but all the kids know if they want to have a deep conversation with their dad, it is a walk. So that's how they've all been trained, that they all then say, hey, can we go for a walk? Because they know that's the place to have a great conversation with dad. I can have the conversation but dad needs to go for a walk to have the conversation. So now they ask for a walk, which makes us go, oh, there's something important.
Yeah, I have my best conversations with one of my children, like out at and Chad, you know this, out at the basketball hoop. Like we just, he gets going. I barely need to say anything, like, because he loves basketball, and so he's talking and he's shooting and he's talking, and
that's because if you can find interest, then that's when sharing starts to happen. And so instead of as real estate agents, you're often taught scripts, dialogues, great questions, and so a lot of real estate agents turn around and use lots of great questions, and they're like, but the kid didn't show up for a listing appointment. The kid showed up because that's what you do every day. And picking up your kids from school is quality time. The other thing that I would suggest for anybody that's a parent, create small rituals. All of us as adults remember small rituals that we had with our parents. It's not about how much time you spend with your kid. And I know people are going to say, well, I think it is. You need to spend more time. I'm just telling you, it's not. What they will remember are small rituals. We cook dinner every Friday. Dad always made me a smoothie when I came home from work, or when he came home from work. Or, we always went to the record store, the bookstore on Saturday mornings. We watch movies together, about documentaries on Wednesdays. They remember all those things and all the conversations. And those are really how you keep the connection going.
Can we bring this? Can we take? I love this conversation, Chad. Can we shift this over to the business side? I lead a team, Nina. Let's say I lead a team. I could even be I could be a contributor on that team. I don't necessarily need to lead it. How does this show up there? Is it very similar? Like if I want to have a conversation with somebody and try to as opposed to just going to them and saying, hey, we need to talk about, your accountability in the business or whatever. Like, should I be approaching that on a walk or talk to me a little bit on the business side of
just think as you're thinking about it, because the reason is someone's working, they're sitting at their computer, they're working, and someone comes up and says, we need to talk about this. Okay. Stress level goes up. That immediately is like, oh my goodness, what are we talking about? That's not the conversation. And typically as a leader, if you're a blunt leader or high D, you can't help it. You're just like, this is what I need to do. You go marching in there and you say, hey, we need to have a meeting about this. And then everybody else, who is not necessarily the highest D because they have a leader, they're going to start feeling stressed. So it is very similar. So what you'd be thinking about is what would be interesting? What would be interesting to have a conversation and say, hey, there's some really interesting things that I'm thinking about in the business and wanting to do a creative planning chat. And then they're thinking, oh, I might be able to have some contribution to it. But one of the things as leaders, we have to be super careful to not just speak what we're thinking. Because if you speak what you're thinking, you're moving at 100 miles an hour. And even if the person you're going to speak to is moving at 75, they're still not right there with you. So you have to do stuff that creates the connection. And typically it's something that might be interesting. So for teams, again, we talked about maybe lunch and learns are kind of fun ways of getting everybody together. The number one thing is care and candor all the time. If you care about the people that you work with that are on your team, people know that, they feel that, they give you more forgiveness about how you deliver things. And then being able to say what you need to say is really important. If you have all caring, where I'm like, I'm just softening everything, you're never going to get stuff done. If it's all candor, you're just going to alienate people and they're upset and they're having aversion. So it's this balance that you're doing. But I think the number one word you want to be thinking is connection. Am I doing something to create a connection? Just like with your sons. Is there something that I'm connecting with rather than just here's the information I'm presenting?
Chad,
Yep.
I'm trying to think, but I don't think ever, and maybe it's happened once or twice, I don't think ever Ben has just walked up to me and been like, I need to talk to you about something. Like, not once that I can recall. You?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When he was,
yeah.
But
Many times he's popped his head into the office, but I've been with him before he became the leader he is today.
Right. So, if you've known Ben I've known Ben a long time too. If you've known Ben a long time, then you start to understand my husband's kind of got that too, where it looks like he wants to kill you because his resting face is his Russian side, not his Italian side. His resting face is, what are you talking to me about? I don't have any time for this. And so you learn to adapt. But if you are growing a team and you are a new leader and everything, you don't get the carte blanche to be able to do that because it's not proven. You have to have really, really proven leadership for people to go, okay, that's just how he is.
Yeah, but even though I think all these years later, like Ben's proven his leadership and he could just walk in and be like, hey, we got to talk about something. He doesn't do it that way. It's a walk. It's, hey, let's go grab lunch.
He's gotten a lot. And Bob, the point I think to make from that is you can learn this, because I can tell you there was a time when that wasn't Ben, where he would walk in and just be like, we need to talk, or we have an issue, or there's something going on, right? And it was like, okay, what, right? And immediately you'd get defensive. He then got to, hey, you want to go stretch our legs? You want to get some air? You want to get some vitamin D? Let's get outside a little bit and get a little walk in. And then halfway through the walk, boom, after you've been talking about, something, he hits you with, it in his way. Nina, you've given us on this call some great tips. Now, folks, whether you have kids, don't have kids, whether you're single, whether you're married, whatever that is, these tips work, whether it's for your team, whether it's for your children, right? I heard from you taking a break to end the day. I heard from you not jumping into an interview. Start a conversation and then allow the conversation to go where you're hoping to take that conversation. I heard one that I think is huge, especially for real estate agents, because they never stop working. Designate a spot that is not your bedroom for having work. When that call comes that you do need to take, excuse yourself and go to whatever that safe space is, so that energy is kind of kept there and out of that sanctuary so that you can release that stress that you've had. So many fantastic tips. What's one you still haven't given us, because we asked questions and kept you in an area? What's one you haven't given us that every realtor should absolutely hear because of the industry specific or just the general entrepreneur challenge?
This is going to sound a little woo-woo, but I'm going to tell you it hits all of that, and that is to breathe. Before you take an action, before you say something, before you engage, if you stop and you take a breath, you reset your nervous system. So we started this call talking about stress. And the number one way to reset your nervous system, if I was talking to the gentleman who was snowballing, telling me all the things, I'd say, I want you to take 4 really deep breaths, long inhale, long exhale. Okay, so your body is not in the same place as your mind is spinning. If we can manage this, we can calm our mind down, and then you're in a stronger position to handle anything. So long inhale, long exhale. And if you want, for people who are really high Ds and leaders, be competitive. In bed at night, so, go with your spouse. You're like, just inhale really long, exhale really long, and say, can you do this as long as I can? And then all of a sudden, everything shifts. Everybody calms down and everything's good. So you can do this anytime during the day. Before you walk into the team to talk about something, you take a couple deep breaths. You're going to show up present. not showing up in the past with all the stress and the baggage and everything else. It shifts your nervous system and it makes you be in the moment. And those two things will make you more powerful. So then you'll be able to handle all kinds of things.
If I could double stamp that, Chad, you know where I'm 7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
Yeah, Nina, Chad and I do a podcast. We had somebody come on one time and talk about 7-Eleven reading, right? 7 seconds in, 11 seconds exhale. And I do that. I did it 2 nights ago when my kid was refusing to go to bed at 9 o'clock. He's like, what are you going to do? Make me go to bed? Like, good luck. And I'm like I wanted to be anxious and elevated, but that, like, it literally resets your nervous system.
And it makes clarity happen. Because otherwise we're ratcheting up with whatever is going on around us. And you're like, I just need to take a deep breath. And the thing for a lot of people who are kinesthetic, where you really feel your body, whenever you are getting anxious or there's a stressful event, especially with kids, take that deep breath and then feel your feet on the ground. If you feel your feet on the ground, it pulls all this energy to center you. So just if you're taking a breath, and everybody goes through teenagers, you need that breath work to put your feet back on the ground. You need that to talk to a client that's stressed and crying on the phone because they had this, how they thought their sale was going to be and how it's not doing. Take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground. All of that is the same for your business, your personal life, complicated tasks. Like, let's say you're working on your taxes. You're like, take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground, do all that. That helps change the whole dynamic of the build of stress. And you get back to being present and just in management of your functions.
Nina, I'll be completely honest with you. I would have thought that was woo-woo in a previous version of myself. Like, I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, breathing. Take a breath.
But I've used it, Chad, ever since that lady came on and taught us about it. So that works. Nina, thank you so much. We really appreciate the time. You're amazing. I feel like we could have done this for the next 4 hours. Like, you've got just nonstop energy, and it doesn't surprise me that you're an expert on managing stress and summoning energy. So thank you for bringing it today for us. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'd love to chat with you guys anytime. So you just let me know. You guys Chad, take care, everybody.
We will.
All right.
Nina, thank you. Have a great week. Chad, we'll see you next week.
Everybody
go out there, make some better connections. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, everybody.
Take care.